Hi, everybody. This is a day trade recap. Today is May 18th. I looked at a bunch of stocks during pre-market. It was a really slow, sluggish morning in the pre-market, but I'll just kind of go over what I looked at. And then after opening bell, that's when I took my 4 trades on one stock. And it turned out to be the gapper from pre-market that I really wasn't sure was going to hold up. So DPSI, it had gapped up during pre-market on news. It was crazy. We had maybe 5 minutes worth of trading there on extremely low volume, like less than 1,000 shares per minute. Well, this one had about 1,000 shares, but the other two were like only a few hundred, and it went from the $4.79 range all the way up to $12.42 in 5 minutes. So, you're looking at almost a $10 per share spike on just a little bit of news. It wasn't anything too spectacular, but it's a low float and you can just blink and the thing will jump 50%. So it's kind of what we had here. So it was on everybody's radar. I knew everybody was looking at that. And that was like at 2 in the morning, my time. So nobody's really trading that hour. That's why the volume was so low. But then it did this big, huge sell-off, and then it just sort of settled in this area. So what I did with this particular DPSI stock is I drew this trend line, this downtrend line. I just kind of went over the peaks as best as I could. And then at opening bell, it made another big spike from the $6.33 all the way up to $8.53, so like a $2 per share spike. So that was good. I didn't get in on that one, and I knew it was going to be hard, and this thing did halt a little bit here and there, but I knew that was going to be tricky and hard to play, so I didn't trade there, but I started to watch it again, right? And I had my lines drawn based on that pre-market move, but that pre-market move had been based on the daily chart. So let me go to the daily chart and show you what it had done recently. This is a terrible stock. It pops and drops, pops and drops. So it's a really difficult stock to trade, but you can trade it, right? Obviously, you can trade it. You just have to really get in early. With it being such a nano flow, you're going to get really bad fills. So you have to get in at the beginning of the trade and then just get out at your lines, know your levels. Anyway, so here was a previous day back like last week or whatever it was. It had made this big move, and then it had done this sell-off, right? So I had some levels to work on. I drew a line here at this wick. I drew a line here at this wick. This wick was already kind of marked here. That was all really that was interesting to me. Then we had the pre-market levels. So that's what I was looking at, and that's the way I drew my levels. Okay, so here's how I entered my trade, right? My classic buy signals, my targets are going to be these white lines. This one I used, it did go to this one. This one was so close that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get in here when it showed another buy signal. So I didn't get in on this little trade, but we'll start with the one that I did get in. We had that pop. It came back down to the 50. I got in above these two lines here because I wasn't sure if they would be resistance. So I waited for candles to get above those lines and then do a little tiny pullback, and they only gave teeny pullbacks, barely. See how you have a line, a little tiny body and a line all the way through. It kind of looks like a nut and bolt, right? Sort of, not really, but kind of. So I had one of these little nuts. I had another little nut here. The bottom was smaller tail than the top. So that's what I was looking at. So I got in on the next one. It was still kind of indecisive, but I did get in. I got in on that first trade at 8:21 this morning, my time, and I got in at $8.58, and I knew that my target was going to be just this next white line, right? And that was plenty of range. It was $10.13 I got out at, okay, on this white line. And then I looked, right? We had this push through it, then we had a little pullback. See this little push through, but I got out right at my level, right? It pushed through a little bit higher, it came back down. Then we had a candle that opened higher than this little nut candle, okay? So that was my entry, and I actually got in at the top. I expected that because being such a low float, you're going to get bad fills. That's why you have to get in at the best time, either the beginning of the trend or at the right pullback point. So on this candle at 8:28 my time, these trades are happening very quickly, and it's only taking a couple of minutes per trade to make the money. So 8:28 this morning, another like 5-minute trade or 4-minute trade. I got in at $10.47. My target was $11.76. And I told the trading clients in the trading plan room, I told them exactly what my levels were. They knew what I was looking for. They knew where I was going to get out. And so they could kind of follow along, and I got out right on this candle, and that trade worked out beautifully. Okay, so here we are. Here I felt like I was so close to this line here. It would have to be a good pullback, and I didn't get in there because I was afraid, I might get a bad fill if I don't get in early enough, and it'll already be at the target, and then it'll start the turnaround. So I didn't take this trade. I just felt like the range was too risky. So then it did this sell-off, and as you can see, I drew my trend line for this sell-off, but I did take a little scalp trade in here. I didn't think I was going to trade anymore on this sell-off, but we had this little level where it started to pop above this white line, right? This is going to be this is a daily line. And so if you get a pop above that, you're probably you can scalp it, or maybe it's a range trade. You never know for sure. I just took the range trade. And what I did on this one, and I told the trade room what I was doing, I was just going to scalp. I told them before I did it that I was scalping to, actually, I was already in the trade when I told them, but I told them where I was going to get out before it got there. I told them my target was $11.19, and that's where I got out right here. It only, as you can see, it was very quick. I got in here, and like the very next candle, I was done. So it was hard for me to type in the trade room what I was doing, but I did tell them that my target was here. So if they looked at it, they knew that, hey, they could tell if they had enough room or not to get in. So they know my targets. They always know my targets. And they know the support levels. So anyway, we had this downtrend. At this point, you've got to wait for price to get above this level, because this downtrend is going to be resistance. Do you see how it traded that as resistance the whole way down? So here, and I'm just using the tops of these high wicks mostly to get that. Usually I like to use these peaks, but it wasn't working out so well to use the peaks of this dynamic line. So I used the high wicks to draw this trend line down. And then we had this little break above that trend line right here. So I got in 10:49 my time on this candle right here at $10.64, and my target, as you can see, was right here. And I'll tell you how I drew that line. My target was $11.34, and it worked out beautifully. And if you look back to the left, that's, if you don't know where your target's going to be, you can always go back and look at previous resistance levels, and that's what I did. See this red line here, which corresponded with these candle tops, these wicks? I just did that, right? I just drew a little line there. I said, I'm going to go to that. And it reached it here, and then it pulled back. And this one, I just didn't know what to do here. So I didn't get in on any others. And now I started to make this video. And finally, it hit that level, that white level. If I wasn't scalping, I would have just stayed in until it hit that level. And it hit that level. And now look at it. It's coming back down to VWAP, and we'll see what it does. But if it breaks below this white line, then it's got some range for some sellers to take it to in between this line and this line. And I'm not interested in shorting it, but that's how I traded this stock. I traded it 4 times, one from here to here and here to here. And then this little scalp based on that funny little doji, right? The body top of this crazy doji candle right here. That's how I did that. And if you look to the left, you'll see why that was such an important level. There was just a lot of congestion, a lot of tails and tops right there. So I picked the body top of this crazy candle. That was a crazy candle. And look how it treated that level, as it should. So that's how that scalp worked out. That was the only really risky one that was crazy, and it turned out to be a really great little trade. And this one was great because I had this level here that I could look at after it broke above this wedge. Okay. Today is a terrible day on the market. So it's a day you have to really be careful. And if you're not confident in your levels or how you're drawing your lines or whatever, don't trade. The other stocks that I looked at, AGRI pre-market, it hit this level here, but I thought maybe I'd try it again. I had told the trade room that if it holds support at 3, which it did here, it would go to 320. I had this line here, and it did that, right? So there was that little trade opportunity that I did call out. I didn't take it, wasn't interested in it, because to me, I needed a little more range. And for this price point, a $3 stock, a 20-cent range was good. It actually turned out to be a 30-cent range. But after that, it broke all support, and then it wasn't of interest anymore. We had a couple of others that I looked at. GNUS had news. But it's a stock that I don't really like. I've worked with it a little bit in the past, but the reason I don't like it is it's just this price point is horrible. I hate stocks. I really don't like stocks below $2. Sometimes I'll look at them when they're $1.50 and on their way to $2. but I don't like them below $2. They're not in my wheelhouse. I don't trade them well. So I just leave them alone. I did draw up a trade plan for this one if it held certain levels, and it failed at those levels. So it was no longer a watch. Even if I were to trade it, or anyone, it just wasn't, it didn't set up. And so I let them know, if it does this, then it's a setup. But if it doesn't, then don't worry about it. And so they knew ahead of time whether or not to look at this. I have been watching VERU, and if you watched some of my videos in the past, recently the stock's been on my radar and I've been trading it a lot. Today, it kind of already did the gap fill, but I let everybody know, hey, I'm going to keep this one on my watch, and I'll just watch it every day. I'll check in and see what it's doing. If it holds certain levels, then it will continue. Well, today, it didn't hold the levels. It didn't hold the levels at all. So I put those levels in there, told them what it needed to hold. I was actually looking for it to get above this, and it never did. And then I said, if it holds 15, it has to hold 15 for it to, even just do from here to here. And it didn't hold 15, as you can see. It's just failing. So it may come back in a day or two, but today was not its good day. So that was VERU, and I did put a trade plan. It just needed to either hold 15 or get above this. Those were the two levels I was looking at, and they didn't work out today. Redbox was another one, RDBX. I'm not crazy about this stock, but it does give you some moves. It was acquisition news, and it trades pretty well once it sets up. This one, I gave the levels that it needed to. This was the level that I was looking at, this $4 level. I said if it can prove support and continuation, then it'll go to 5. But as you can see, it failed at that level. So this was taken off of our watch pretty early in the game this morning, this RDBX. And that was all we had. But today, DPSI, it did set up. So it took some patience, and DPSI didn't look like it was going to do much after, it had done this huge sell-off. It gave back half of its gain, maybe even a little more than half. But see how it recovered nicely, and it filled that pre-market gap and went a little bit more. So that's the gap and go setup that I really like to play. So if you want to study this chart, I would encourage that. Kind of look at how I drew these lines and see how they worked out, and that will help improve your game plan. So anyway, that's how today went. I made 4 great trades, made some good money on a day that the Dow, what is the Dow doing in the NASDAQ? Oh my heck. Oh, it's 1100, over 1100 in the red. NASDAQ is down over 500. But look, we made 4 extremely profitable trades, even though the market is majorly selling off. So 80% of the market is declining overall. But we found a good stock, and it was one on our pre-market gappers, and all is good. Okay, I hope you found this helpful. If you want to be a really good trader, subscribe to the channel, follow my recap videos. I don't always post my recap videos publicly. I do try to share them with my clients, my mentoring clients, my coaching students, and they get the heads up before the moves make, and we can kind of trade them live. I don't tell them when to enter and when to exit, because I don't want them following me like that. I want them to recognize the actual setups. I want them to understand the levels that I'm looking at, and if they can prove those as support, then it's game on to the next level. And that's what I give all of my clients, my students that are in the room, the trade room. They have a plan that they can work off of very early in the day before the moves set up. They know what they're looking for, and they're ready, and they can trade comfortably and confidently, and so that's what I provide. So if you would like anything like that, what I would encourage you to do is get my free trading template by going to the masterclass here on this next video. You can click on that and watch the masterclass. It's free. The trading template is free. It will help you tremendously. And if you want to join the trade plan room, go ahead and do that as well. Anyway, I hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, let me know, and we will talk soon.